Hello, hello. This is your host, Yutama, and welcome to My Food Lens podcast, where we talk about everything from food photography, styling to business and mindset. After 15 years as an architect, I switched careers and I'm now a professional food stylist and food photographer based in Singapore. I'm also the founder of the business My Food Lens, where we help clients elevate their brand through drool-worthy photos. My motto is, put your best food forward. Well, here on this podcast, I promise to keep it raw and real and hope you find your answers, action, and inspiration as we move through the episodes. This is episode 5, and today we are continuing the conversation about top life mantras that can help to increase productivity and efficiency. But since we are on the topic, if you're looking to get efficient with your own photography process or streamlining your workflow and saving time, check out my free guide called the 10-Step Photoshoot. Just send me a DM on Instagram saying you'd like the free photoshoot guide and I'll be happy to send it your way. All right, back to episode 5 and continuing the conversation about top life mantras that can help to increase productivity. Well, every so often there are days when we feel like we could have done better, when we could have been a little bit more productive. But the reasons are, usually either we have other commitments or we are feeling low or just not in the right headspace to accomplish. There are days when we just don't feel inspired. There are situations that are in our control and many situations are not in our control. And we have to give ourselves that grace. But there are times when we want to turn the situation around, when we have this desire, to be more productive, when we want to do things differently, but we just don't know how to get there. Well, that's when the mantras come into action. Well, one of my mantras in such situations is called, always remember why you started this. I know it's long, but always remember why you started this is so powerful. I'm trying to remember where I read this, but I think this one's my own, really. I think it's something that I told myself right after I started the photography business, especially since I left a thriving architectural career to follow my love for food, styling, and photography. I was stepping into the unknown. I was leaving a promising career behind, something that I invested so much time in. So I had to kind of write this for myself to always remember. In fact, I actually have printed out quotes and sentences that inspire me, and I actually paste them on a wall in my workroom. And one of the quotes, obviously, that I have on my wall says, always remember why you started this. It's so powerful. A few months back, I was on an emotional roller coaster ride. My daughter wasn't well, and then I wasn't well, and then my husband wasn't well. And when all of this was going on at home, I had this huge business turmoil, something that I'd invested in financially, but also emotionally. I had a lot of hopes pinned on. It just did not go as expected. And I was upset. I was angry. I was sad. I was angry. I was angry at not only on myself, but I was angry at the other person who was involved in this. And there was just this anger filled in me. And everyone at home was feeling it. I think you might have read an Instagram post of mine on this, but if you haven't, I'll tell you this again, what happened. So I was very angry, I was sad, I was upset, I was not inspired, and everybody at home was kind of feeling the tremors. In fact, every time I'm angry, my husband has kind of a code for it, and he'll say, looks like a cloudy day with chances of thunder and shower. It's like his prophecy. Well, anyway, so yes, definitely in those days, the house was highly overcast. I tried everything. I tried hanging out with my friends. I was playing with my daughter. I tried exercising, working out. It just wasn't feeling it. I was so miserable. I was still angry. So I was like, okay, what else can I do? So I cooked food. I cooked a fun recipe and then I forced myself to photograph it even though I wasn't feeling completely inspired. And I just went in and I said, I'm just going to photograph this however it comes to me. And for some reason, that creativity really brought out a positive energy in me. And when I finished the shoot, I felt energized. I felt good. After a very long time, I felt good. So I packed up everything and I walked into my workroom to put everything back in its place. And my eyes suddenly fell on the writings on my inspiration wall. And one of them was obviously saying, always remember why you started this. And something just struck me, and I just stood in that spot holding all my camera and tripod. And I was like, oh my gosh, how easily I had forgotten this. Why didn't I see this before? I mean, I'd started photography because it brought me joy. I left a career for photography. Photography spoke to me. It tugged my heart. But one failure in business had spoiled everything for me. How could it have changed everything for me? How did I let that one failure come in the way? The moment I reminded myself of why I do what I do, I felt better. The moment I looked at this whole idea of always remember why you started this, I remembered why I started this. And it just, the emotion subsided, the anger went away, and anyway, I was feeling much better. I felt even more inspired to work again because I was reminded of the joy that this work brings to me. I began to get more creative, more productive, and I just got over the whole negative situation, which was anyway out of my control. It wasn't like I could change anything or time could go back. So why, really brood over it? So I just got over it and I reminded myself of all the positive things that were in my mind when I had actually started the styling and photography business for myself. Well, failure and success, ups and downs, well, these are all part of life. And our life choices are completely ours and only ours. No matter what situation we are in, we can always bring our attention back to why we made that choice. It just makes it easier to remain contented, not to double guess ourselves, and also to bring our best to whatever we do. Because one failure cannot bring us down. There is a reason why what we do made us happy in the first place. So, even when we talk about social media, even when we are caught in this whole bubble of comparison, first of all, comparison only makes one tired. But still, we do fall into that bubble often. And, sometimes we'll see that others are growing faster than us, or sometimes we see that their business is moving forward so much quicker than ours. Well, we just have to remind ourselves why we started doing what we do, why we do it the way we do, because it's our way. And then we just need to remember how the beginning of all of this had nothing to do with the comparison that we were feeling today. It was not a fight for followers. It was not about bringing in revenue. It was all about finding satisfaction. It was, in all probability, all about chasing a calling, a dream, a passion. And you followed it because it brought you joy. And we constantly need to bring our attention back to why we started it in the first place. It was for none of the negatives, it was only for the positives. Now, it's only natural to have periods of low productivity, but as long as we can center ourselves towards that positive mindset that made us start in the first place, we can always overcome that slump to move forward efficiently. We can always continue to be productive. We can always get over the negativity that might be impacting us from the social media or by seeing other people's success. But as long as we can tell ourselves, okay, here's why we started, here's where I wanted to be, this was my emotion when I began, and I really thought that this would be da 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 da. If we can just tell ourselves that story all over again, the same story we told ourselves when we started, when we made those big moves, we can really change our mindset towards something so positive and productive that we probably will end up surprising ourselves. There is, however, another big emotion I feel that inhibits our efficiency, and many times it inhibits our creativity. And it was somewhat the same situation, valid in the situation that I just talked to you about, where I didn't feel inspired, I didn't photograph, I went through a period of failure. And it was inhibiting my efficiency, and it was also impacting my creativity. That emotion was the fear of making a mistake. I had just gone through a failure and I didn't want to fail again. But the fear of going wrong, doing something wrong, being taken the wrong way, or so forth, it really does get to us. The fear of making a mistake truly impacts our productivity, which is why I'm going to get to my last mantra. And it's called, so stay with me as I say this, it's called, you can do nothing wrong if you do nothing. Let me say it again. You can do nothing wrong if you do nothing. You won't even believe where I gathered this mantra from. So the CEO of the architectural firm I worked at before I switched careers, before I moved to photography, he used to say this. When I was working in architecture, I was not just a healthcare architect for the firm, designing healthcare facilities, but I was also the lead researcher. So I used to write papers for journals, I used to do peer-reviewed journals, I used to attend conferences and do some real hardcore research. Now, the problem with research is that publishing the results can be quite nerve-wracking. You've studied a topic in depth and you're excited about the results and the outcomes, but sometimes the results can be quite disrupting. They can disrupt the industry thinking or practices that have been going on for years. Now, one has to be, careful. One has to tread carefully while talking about the outcomes because it has to be backed by solid evidence, right? So you get the picture, right? I'm not going to get too technical, but basically sharing your outcomes can be a little bit tricky. And whenever I was in that state, I would often be in this dilemma, how to go ahead and share this and what should I say? And do you think people will accept it? What will be the response? Will people say I'm wrong? Is it a mistake? And there would be all these thoughts that would come into my mind. Not that I was double guessing, but because I was just trying to tread cautiously. And for that, I would always approach our CEO. And he would just say, well, don't be afraid. You can do nothing wrong if you do nothing. And all I wanted was to hear that. And I almost always knew that he was going to say that. I would hear it. I would go back to my desk. I would smile. And I would share my findings irrespective of the fear of disruption. But I always needed to hear those words. I always needed that comfort. I needed that backing. And his words have long since stayed with me. I apply them all the time to whatever I'm experiencing, whatever emotion I'm getting. Whenever I'm in doubt that, what if I make a mistake? I just tell myself, well, you can do nothing wrong if you do nothing. So over time, I have learned that it is good to make mistakes. It is also wonderful to be wrong sometimes, but it is wonderful to fail too. This means we're moving forward. If we're failing, we're making mistakes, we're going wrong, it means we are moving forward, we are doing something. We're not just sitting back and doing nothing because we don't want to be wrong. We want to be wrong because we want to move forward. Well, tell me one thing. How many times have you gone online to buy a product or even an online course, and the host of the course starts by telling you all the mistakes that they made and how their product or their course will save you from making those mistakes? Because this is life. This is how it works. Because mistakes and failure are the foundation of success. Everyone has to go through that cycle. If you don't make one particular mistake, you'll definitely make the other mistake. And that's okay. The feeling of, what if I fail? This kind of a feeling, it can inhibit our productivity. It can also stop us from unleashing our full potential. And that's not what we want. So every time, for me, every time I feel discouraged or doubtful that I'm not being able to give my 100%, I just shake it out. I tell myself, what's the worst that can happen? If I go wrong this time, fine, I'll just correct myself next time. But if I don't try at all, I'll never know. And I live with this fear all my life. That's not what I want. That's not what we want. We might not do anything wrong, but we don't want to be doing anything at all. Well, I know there's a lot of anythings and nothings that we're talking about here, but that's what it's about. We need to talk to ourselves. Self-talk is important. We need to lift our spirits. We want to push our enthusiasm and our passion too regularly. We want to lift our spirits regularly because someone needs to talk to us. Someone needs to do this for us, and no one else except us. We can do this for ourselves just by using a very powerful mantra, just by repeating something to ourselves that is to the tune of, you can do nothing wrong if you do nothing. So we just need to tell ourselves we will do whatever it takes to do whatever we want to do, right? We also need to remind ourselves of everything positive that inspires us to give our 100% and take out any of that unproductivity that we might be feeling, that, slump phase that we might be getting in. We need to get out of it, and we need to get a way to get out of it. That way we can live our fullest, productive, creative lives to the absolute potential, just like we had envisioned, when we started. But also by telling us, always remember why you started this. So, these mantras, they have come to me. I have taken them away from my previous work experiences, from my life experiences. They have helped me overcome business failures, get back to my creativity. They have also helped me unleash my full potential. Does that mean that I don't go through cycles of unproductivity? No, that absolutely does not mean. We all do. It's human, it's natural. But this is definitely a tool I use to come out of that phase. And I try a little bit more, then I try a little bit more, and pluck, I can make that transition to that positive mindset. So I hope that this episode gave you something also to think about, actions that you can take the next time that you feel that you're not giving your 100%. And instead of just trying to figure out a way how to do it, all you need is a change in your mindset, a little bit of thinking, a little bit of self-talk, a little bit of enthusiasm, and a little bit of positivity. That is all that is going to take you from being unproductive to being extremely efficient, and to be able to fight that cycle of slump that we feel every so often. Well, these mantras are drawn from real life experiences, and I've applied them for so many years, not just to my personal life and to my business. And I really hope that you found them as inspiring as they have been to me. Well, if you did enjoy this episode, it'll be amazing if you could please leave me a review on whichever platform you might be listening. I would absolutely appreciate it so that I can get you better content, better guests. So I'll see you next time with another episode. Until then, bye-bye.